amendment, Councillor Doig, but I couldn't get it to work as an addition because the original motion suggests that there is no code of conduct and there's no complaints procedure where actually there is. But I completely agree about that.
Hold on, Andy. Can you let Jill finish, please? Andy, I'll ask you to come in a wee second. Jill.
The complaints procedure and code of conduct is within Renfrewshire Council's establishment of community councils, scheme of establishment, which is actually on the website. So I agree about the complaints procedure. I think that's not very clear, but there is a code of conduct, and that when community councillors sign up to be a community councillor, they are actually aware of the code of conduct. So that's why I couldn't get it to. If I've got that wrong, then please tell me. But that's how I read it.
Before I bring you in, Andy, I'm going to ask Mark to come in and clarify the situation. Mark.
Thank you, Provost. Councillor Graham is right that there is a code of conduct for community councillors. They're effectively covered by the same code of conduct as elected members within this chamber. The difference between the two, however, is that if a member of the public has cause to complain about any elected member, then they can go to the Standards Commission, and the Standards Commission will consider that complaint. There is no similar position in relation to community council members. Within the scheme which the council has agreed, there are provisions where if a community council is failing in a substantive manner to meet the requirements of the scheme, then it falls to me as the council's head of corporate governance to consider whether the community council should be suspended. If they are suspended, and it would be the whole community council as an entirety, not individual members, if they are suspended, they then become what is known as a working group, and the intention would be that they would work with me to see if the issues which have been identified can be addressed. If they are, they can then be re-established, and if they can't be, then it would fall to me to raise the matter with the Director of Finance and Resources to bring a report to Council seeking to dissolve the Community Council. The issue that this creates is that that's a very high threshold, and if individual members of the public have complaints about individual community councillors and how they are acting, there is frankly nothing that the council can do either on an officer level or councillor level to deal with the conduct of individual community councillors, unless the failing is so high that it just impacts the entire ability of the community council to deal with matters. What is there in the process is really meant to address things like not holding meetings, not submitting accounts, not submitting minutes. It's not really designed to deal with the question of the behaviour of individual community councillors. There was a proposal when the last review was done in 2018 and 19 to introduce a model complaints procedure at that time. My understanding is that in the initial consultation with community councils, there was not a great deal of engagement on the point, and therefore the proposal which was made was to include such a code. Following the consultation, when the report came back to be considered in 2019, that it had been taken through the forum, and the very strong view from the forum at that time was not to introduce a code of or a complaints procedure. And for that reason, members decided in 2019 not to incorporate matters. It would be fair to say that there have been a number of issues raised with me in respect of a number of different community councils, some of which I am currently dealing with, where I am giving consideration as to whether a particular community council requires to be suspended. And there are matters which have been raised with me in relation to the conduct of individual community councillors, and that is much harder for me to deal with. I will be writing to one in particular, making some observations to them in relation to the conduct of the code. But if that particular individual were to continue on with the behaviour they previously exhibited, then I would not have any action that I would be in the position to take. I don't know if that helps members in relation to the questions of the motion or the amendment, but what I would say is that it is absolutely my intention that Dave Lowe and myself will bring a report back to the next council meeting in September, seeking to launch the next review, and we will be seeking permission from elected members to go out to public consultation on the content of an updated code. And I would say at this stage it is my intention to raise the question in that review of a complaints procedure going forward, standing the issues that we've been required to deal with over the last year or two. Thanks.
Andy, Councillor Doig.
Hey, I'll come in. Is it on? It is on. Right, I'll come in and comment. I think this is a good point for clarification because, Provost, I was aware of the fact there had been a review in 2019. I remembered we'd had a review. I went back to look at it, and at that time, it seemed to be the case that the feeling of the council was that we didn't want a code of conduct. I accept the points that Councillor Graham's made, although I'm surprised because to me it's never been that clear reading the Ethical Standards Commission, the Code of Conduct for Councillors, that it also covered community councils or community councillors. I don't think that's particularly clear. That's really not clear at all. But the whole nub of the thing is there's 2 points here. We're here to try and review our procedures. That's been that's now the general trend of direction that the Audit Board is taking, and I think it's a good thing that we as a council look at maybe updating things like Code of Conduct. I think we need to have one because we're dealing with public funds here. Community councillors are dealing with public funds. So I do think it's something that we need. In relation to the issue, Councillor Graham, of consultation, I was aware anyway that there would be a consultation at the end. If my motion's passed unamended, there would still always be a consultation on what the review says. So in that sense, your amendment's completely unnecessary. And because it seeks to replace my motion, I won't be accepting it. Thanks.
Okay, so that's been clarified. He won't be accepting the amendment, Gillian. We do have a couple of other councillors who want to come in. Councillor Eddie Devine.
Thanks, Councillor. It's not so much to do with this particular motion. I think we need to actually find a way of, they've got people now sitting at the back who haven't a clue what we're talking about because they haven't got the paperwork. They haven't got a clue about the amendments to this particular motion. We need to find a better way of informing the people the public who are sitting behind us and don't know what's going on. We need to find a way of putting the motions up there or the amendments up there so that other people other than us, because we've got the paperwork in front of us, they don't.
There is.
If they've got it, but they may not have it.
They do, yeah. Someone intimating that they do have the agenda. They do. Yeah. But yeah, I suppose, it's something that we can look at. It's not beyond our ability to try and make things easier for people. And certainly if we know that we have members of the public coming along, we can make sure that they have sight of the papers before they come in, because the papers are published the week before the meeting, or certainly the Friday before the meeting, so it is available on the website. Cllr Jacqueline Cameron.
Thanks, Provost. Just to support fully the motion, because I think the issue is about individual community councillors. I'm thinking specifically of an example of a community council in Dundee where there was members of a far-right group who became chair and members of the community council. So I think we all agree that we wouldn't want people who are members of a far-right group to have power and influence in the community. I'm not sure what the outcome of that was for that particular community council, but I think it's really important that we have some sort of process where we can make complaints. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Nicholson.
Thanks, Provost. It's just, the way I'm reading it, I don't actually see what the purpose is of the Labour amendment, except to sort of dilute away the intent of the motion in front of us. I'm fully aware, as all the members here, it's not just about councillors and others, but what our officer actually explained the problem. The problem is when people come to our officers about community councils, they don't have the power, no clarity around what they can do, what they can actually provide to support. And I'm not talking about members of the public or elected members. We're big enough and tough enough to take the rolls and the punches, as we sometimes do at community council meetings and other places. But it's more a fact that when people come to us or come to our officers, and our officers absolutely struggle to try and understand how do they manage the relationship of a community council advise them. I mean, I'm fully aware of community council meetings where people said to me there's members haven't attended for over a year, and yet they're not, after 6 months, they're no longer members, but that just gets ignored by certain community councils, etc. So there's rules there for community councils, and I think the real question for us is to have a clearer look and understanding about what is the power of local councils with regards to community councils, what is it exactly our officers can do with regards to supporting community councils, to support. I find a lot of times it's supporting the chair and supporting the committees of community councils from their own members at times, getting attacked and all the rest of it. So I think there's a good issue here with the fact that the timing's right with it, and it's actually asking this council and instructing the officers to have a good, clear look at how the complaints procedure, if there was to be one, how that would operate, and how would it operate with regards to our complaints and the role of the council, and in particular its officers. I've had, over the number of years, I've had issues to go and speak to our community council liaison officer, and it's our hands are tied kind of response. And I think it's helpful for our officers to understand, and for elected members and for the public to understand exactly the role our officers have with engagement with the community councils, and also to enforce not enforce, but to force the point on members of community councils when they represent the local community. There's times when there's unacceptable language and behaviour used between themselves to others, etc. But the chairs in that feel disempowered to take any sort of action, and they turn to the council for support. So I think this motion itself today helps us to look at that issue in a more clear fashion, in a more clear way, and then once and for all get to a point of understanding what it is the council can do to support community council members. It's not about punishing folk, it's not about trying to find a way to get at people. It's about how do we support community council members and support the chairs and others and the committee members who take on the role voluntarily to help them manage their community councils better and understand the roles, the power they have to enforce the rules and code of conduct, but what can the council do to support them as well, Provost? So I think that's what we're talking about here today, and I don't really see that the Labour amendment is going to add anything to that view. So from our perspective, we'll be supporting the motion. Thanks, Provost.